The following podcast may contain spoilers.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Treading the Path of Heaven.
What up, guys?
Another one.
Yeah,
You guys gotta stop making me read books.
I don't know.
like them.
I don't think we made you read the last one, nor did we call you out on homework on the last one. So,
Hey, shut up.
we're giving you the same advice, I think.
This is your last path. I think the next one. You know what? I'm sick of you not reading.
Hey, you can't take
Next
this away from
episode, it's got to be something you read.
Yeah, you're the host next time.
Yeah,
you're
we'll
the
be the
fourth
guests.
host. We're the guests.
me. I don't.
and
No,
then
it's
we'll be
happening
asking
now.
you questions all the time. See how you like it.
Yeah, but the last. I'm not sure how I feel about a Seth episode because, like,
Seth episode.
we had the Richard episode last week, and like I don't
Richard
know,
episode.
the reaction to that was like real garbage. Seth said from the past, in hopes that he would be really
Shot in the dark.
really awesome in the future.
Called shot.
No, I don't know, man. No,
Dude.
that was.
No, guys, pause for just a moment. Called shot, like in diplomacy checks.
Ooh.
Oh,
All right,
Jesus.
yeah. I'm gonna make this, but I'm gonna say that he's going to not believe me, but think I'm lying directly opposite. So like it's actually east, but he's gonna go south because I said north.
D&D fans are loving it.
Yeah, no, they're like, this is so good. This is like three
No,
levels.
Why
even
can't
D&D
this
fans are
just
like,
be
this
the
is some
podcast?
Hey, no, that would never work, and here's why.
Somebody's gonna rules lawyer our comments, dude. So that'll never work. How
I expect
dare you?
that- I
You gotta
expect
take
that.
a negative 20 penalty to that.
Somewhere in
Good.
the novel translation.
Like I love that. That's
thread.
I love D&D communities. Like it's just a haven for analytical, wonderful people. But this is not a D&D podcast. This
No, it's not.
is Treading the Path of Heavens, a podcast where we talk about Asian web novels, light novels that have been translated into English that we love. I am your host, Jonathan Kenny. With me, my two co-hosts.
I'm Richard, the Korean web novel master.
And I'm Bill. I read things.
Joined, I always, as our self-proclaimed perennial guest, Seth.
I'm starting to regret proclaiming that for myself, but it seems like next episode I get to be the host. So like,
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see. If you do good enough, maybe you can ditch that and just become an actual host all the time.
And then we can invite people to be guests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh wait, we could replace Seth with another guest.
Yeah.
Well, the more we just get the funding to get more equipment and just have 4 hosts and
Whatever. I am actually super excited this week, as I am many weeks, because we are bringing you another one of my favorite novels this week, Legendary Moonlight Sculptor.
what
Ooh, I love Legendary Moonlight Sculptor. It's fun.
Yeah, this is a Korean light novel series. It is massive. It is, I think, 50 volumes completed.
It's epic in scale.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah, it's a long ride, but it's definitely one of those where the journey is the fun part. Like it's never about what's happening in the plot. It's always about how ridiculous is the path that Weed chooses to get there.
It is a page turner. It is enjoyable. It has a sea of really fun characters that all always come back into the forefront somehow.
Ooh, what was the other book that did that?
I Shall Seal the Heavens.
Yeah, that one does it. Yeah.
And this is also because it's epic in scale and length, but it's one of those where because some stuff that happens in it's like it's not exactly episodic, but you can treat it that way. It's kind of hard to ruin this. You can't really like spoil it, right? Like
Yeah,
because
I could tell
everything is awesome.
I could describe stuff, and it's like it doesn't matter because like my descriptions of these scenarios that occur are not going to match up to the author's like hilarious comic timing on the way
this
he
is a
sets
funny
up-
one.
Oh,
Oh, this is one of the funniest books that I've read.
Guys, I think we're verbatim just like recounting our I Shall Seal the Heavens, but for a Korean author.
I guess. I mean, the main characters are very similarly greedy. Weed is probably the most miserly hero out of all of these translated novels I've read.
He is a miser.
Dude does not want to spend money. And understandably so.
Scenario.
So how do we frame? Actually, no. How did this translate? Because the thing about Legendary Moonlight Sculptor, because it's so large and epic in length, it's changed hands a few times.
So a couple different translators.
Well, I know originally the author had plans to bring the books officially into English through like Amazon and like official translators and all that kind of stuff. But he wanted his fans had already started translating it, and he wanted his fans to be able to read it. So he gave permission to translate the first 20 novels of the series.
Damn.
And the fans got that. And the first translator group, which was actually an excellent translator, like awesome. Like he would put in like stat tables and like actual like loadouts of like, this is the stat screen and this is it all like actually placed individually and lovingly done. So that you could see the actual pop-up that appeared in front of his eyes instead of like later on where they're just like a box and then a bunch of like words written hastily, like strength plus this, blah, 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 plus this, blah, 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 plus this.
I see.
Instead of it looking real nice.
Also, to comment on that though, the writing in this is extra detailed as well. Like it's both funny, timing is great, but it paints pictures.
Oh yeah.
Like you know these maps and these areas these people are, you could probably like simulate and walk through it if you were put in there. Because you would know.
This is great. This is one of those few books that I've read where as they're describing the story, like a map got built in my head of the world they were in, and like seeing maps that people have made by following the reading, and it is actually basically the same map that I had in my head.
Incredible.
Yes. Like the author was able to portray that in such a way that it just made sense.
He's really methodical in the way he lays out his scenes, or at the very least in the beginning. That's what I find. I guess we should start where all things start at the beginning.
Yeah, let's just start at the beginning because honestly, like, there's so many awesome stories about this series. But like, one of my favorite ones is in fact the origin story. We have our main character, Lee Hyun.
I think it's Lee Hyun.
Yeah,
until we used to just call him Weed.
Yeah, I always refer to him by his online handle in the game. But Lee Hyun is a kid who has basically just come of age in Korea. Up until this point, he has been lying about his age, and because he's been lying about his age, he's been taken advantage of by his employers, but he's been getting every possible job that he could get because his parents died suddenly, leaving them a lot of debt, and because their grandmother was sickly and they were children, no one went into the office to be like, hey, we don't want to inherit this debt. So he spent his entire life learning from loan sharks, Yakuza.
Yeah, Shylocks came up to them and be like, you're going to take this debt, boy, and you're going to pay it. And it's bad. They do. They literally run this man through the dirt. Like they chase him. Like and the thing is, he was a diligent student. He worked hard. He's a good person, but he's treated like shit by classmates, treated like shit by people.
Yeah, like he literally like never spends any time with his classmates. Anytime he gets invited out to do, he's like, no, I got to go work because my family literally can't eat. And my grandmother's dying of sickness and my little sister has medical issues. And
so it sounds like Weed's just a bummer.
No, he has a very practical, like, I'm gonna solve this problem. Like he's not like down on it, he's just living a hard work. His method is always like, oh, I could be working harder. There was a point at which like he worked himself to sickness in the story, and he's like, fuck, I didn't know there was sickness in the game. I could have been pushing myself to this point every time. Fuck.
I see.
So much wasted potential. Like Weed is the the perfect example of a hard worker.
Never stops.
Why would he?
Like there's a point where I think one of the things he brags about is like he stayed awake for like 21 days playing.
Oh yeah.
He just played a game for 21 days straight. And the reason he stopped is because like there was a power outage that booted him out. And he's like, oh, I should probably sleep.
Don't get it twisted though. Because his hard work is not because he's some like dude who is emaciated, not taking care of himself or the family or money. No, he rations all of his food. He'll eat like shit to feed his little sister and his grandmother the best food.
Yeah, he makes incredibly good, nutritious food at like the cheapest possible price. Like he goes to the market and like the market people don't even haggle with him anymore. They just give him the stuff for their lowest price they're willing to because they know he knows exactly how much that food is worth.
I do like people like he took all the appraise points in Kuma Desuga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So he has all the points in knowing how to be a savvy.
So he's
business.
just
but
he's
this
just
is him
the best.
This is him in real life.
Yeah.
And so like all this time, the only thing he did for entertainment was he played this online game called Continent of Magic. And it was the WoW of the era.
It
It lasted for like 20 years.
Was it VR?
No.
It wasn't VR.
He played on a shitty computer.
Okay.
Computer was garbage. He played solo. He didn't talk to nobody.
Yeah, he didn't talk to anyone. He never communicated with anyone.
That's what makes those games fun.
He didn't join group. Yeah, but he was God. Like he was out leveled everyone. He had all the unique equipment in the
Killed
game.
all of the hardest bosses. Did all this. He's people look at him like a legendary god.
And also, he was 100% willing to PK. If anyone just got in his way, he would kill them. Like he didn't seek people to kill, but if you were just like in his path, he would murder you because you were in his path.
You were just experienced.
It's easier than walking past you.
Yeah. So he finally comes of age and he's like, all right, it happened, boys. I'm of age. I can go to an actual employment agency and sign up for like 3 jobs. I can get out of high school.
Anymore. And then he goes to like the RMT auction, whatever, right? This RMT auction site. He's like, I guess
I know people sell these for like $50 or $100.
maybe I can get a few $100.
So selling what?
Selling his account.
His account. So he's put his account up completely unaware that he is a legend in this game. Because he doesn't interact with anyone or talk to anyone in this game.
So he's just like,
so he puts it up and people... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
He puts it up and people are like, this is a joke, right?
This can't be weed.
And then they like look at the items and like they like get people that can like do Photoshop and like analyze this picture. Is this a real picture? Oh my God, is this a real picture?
It was like Szechuan sauce all over again.
Oh, yeah, I think Szechuan sauce, except no one believed it. And they all went to this and they realized, holy shit, it's real. And then the bidding begun.
Because now it's just like, and then like people like, everyone played this game. So like there are old like CEOs of companies that used to play this game 20 years ago. And they're like, oh, I could own Weed's character. So like this incredible, crazy bidding war starts.
Whole corporations are just like, we have a new game coming out. Maybe we can get the strongest character in Continent Magic, buy it, and then have it as an example and use this publicity to feed the next game that's coming out.
Not a bad idea.
So billions and billions of won are being bidded on this.
Yeah, eventually it ends up, and it's like what, like 30?
Let's take 3 billion. 3 billion won.
3 billion won is what eventually. And so like he gets a phone call. And it's like, all right, so we put the 3 billion won in your account. So what do we need us to do to give us the account stuff?
He thought she was joking.
And she just hangs up on her like, fucking bitch.
Stop lying to me.
Well, you would. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily hang up on the person, but you wouldn't believe him.
But then he goes back and like checks the actual numbers after like 3 or 4 annoying calls. And like he's like, oh shit, it actually sold for 3 billion won. So he goes, he's like, fuck, this is amazing. I can put my sister in college. I can take care of my mom's medical expenses or my grandma's medical
I'm gonna get
expenses.
her fixed. We're gonna get a new house, everything. He starts doing these things, right?
Sure.
And then as soon as everything start going good his way, you can knock on the new house's door.
It was in the hospital, I thought.
Oh, was it the hospital?
Yeah, it was
He
his
just bought
grandma's
the house,
hospital
and
room.
the grandma was getting out of the hospital. And they're like, guess what? Know how much money you owe you with, what is this? 16 years of interest?
Oh, look, it's like 2.95 million won. Here's like a tiny amount. Here's like the exact amount in change from what you have. Thanks, bye.
Took all those money.
And he's like, dude, if you fucking have a problem with it, then make another 3 billion won in 5 years, and then like come back and talk to me.
And then like time freezes, and you just see the lights in his eyes go off, and you see the giant bold letters "Challenge accepted" appear.
Oh, yeah, because he was too weak to
Basically.
defend himself, too. Not strong enough, not whatever. So, in the lead up to this, it sets up the, like, by the way, the way the writer writes this is like heart destroying. Like,
Yeah,
like this kid has been like shit on his entire life. He finally gets something, and then it is immediately taken away. Ugh. So like he's like, well, fuck. If I could do it one time, then I can do it again. So he goes in, and there's like this new game that's basically. It's like a full virtual reality thing. Like you actually sit. There's like a pod you get in.
Investment, all this stuff, and he starts playing because it doesn't come out for a while. For like a while, like
No, I thought it was already out at that point. He doesn't start playing for a while. He takes like a year before he starts playing.
What ends up happening is he researches all he can about virtual reality because it's coming out in the future, and then it comes out, and he doesn't get into it like till 6 months after it's been out, because he starts training to do it before it comes out, and the training and the research takes longer than it takes for it to come out. So once it's out 6 months, and then he finally goes in.
That's right, because I think it was it had something to do with it was based on the person.
Yeah, so he's like, I'm going to get my body right.
Yeah, so he goes to like a sword dojo and like learns swordsmanship because this world is going to be based on your actual physical ability
Hell yes.
and not a thing. So
Oh, wait,
exactly.
no. I'd be fucked. I would die. Like in a 30-second.
So like this is what he does. Like he doesn't half-ass anything. Like he's like researched where he's going to start. He knows how he's going to spend his month of time he's trapped in the city. He knows like what he can get, who he's looking for, what quests he's going to do, how he's going to go out. Like he sets all this up.
Ways to get stats, things that people will never do, by the way.
Yeah, because like okay, the way he spends his first month, he immediately goes to the training center. He is given a training sword and like put in front of a dummy by the instructor
and
there.
enough bread. Some bread and crappy water.
Yeah, you start out the game with an empty canteen and like 10 things of barley bread, and you can fill the canteen in like the fountain.
So
And
like
you have to drink and eat or you're gonna die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you will die of hunger. So he just starts hitting the scarecrow, and after like 13 hours, it's like strength went up by 1. And he just does that for a month.
And people watch him and they're terrified. They're like,
Who is this
"What
fucking
Are
idiot?
you retarded? Like, what is
some of them try it out like, oh man, this will be neat, and they get tired. They're like, I don't
like,
want to
this-
do this anymore.
Like if your hands are like blistering and this is like actual pain being referred to you
Sure, yeah.
in the virtual reality, like it's not easy. Like you are actually pushing through your endurance and all this kind of stuff. And we can do this because he's a literal monster.
But like the reason is you can't leave the starting town that you're put in for the first month.
Yeah,
You
it's like a
have to
safety
stay there
period.
and do stuff.
Usually people do quests, get money, explore,
Earn some skill books.
earn skill books, do all this other stuff. No, he's in this. And also, Weed is very good at buttering up NPCs.
Oh,
yeah.
loves
He
talking
just-
to people.
He just silver tongues the NPCs. And this whole world, this like is run by an AI. Like a super powerful AI is running this entire world, and as people take actions and do things, it's creating content and quests and classes and things based on the actions they take. It's this incredible
That's a great
like
game.
world.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I would kill to play this game if it
So
existed.
wait,
I would play the shit. Oh, and the name of this road is Royal Road because the point of this is essentially they're playing until someone becomes the emperor of the world. When someone takes over the emperor of the world position, they are given they're given a tenth of the company that runs this game's profits for a month.
By the way, it costs hundreds of dollars monthly to play this game.
Yeah, it's like a $300 subscription.
Christ.
month.
But it's like it's next level. It's
Does it
worth
pay for the equipment? Do you rent the equipment with that?
No,
you
you
have
have
to
to buy
buy
the
the
pod.
equipment separately.
he had basically enough with what they left him.
Yeah, so he basically like
to also like kind of take care
But
of
you
his
can
grandma
make
and
enough
sister?
money off doing this to.
well no
There's an arm. The RMT exists. You can sell your shit
Yeah,
to
he just-
people.
he just goes in. He's like, I'm going to get so many. Like he goes into real life auction house items away. Like he's like, I'm gonna play this game as a business.
No,
I'm
that-
going to go in, do unique quests, use the items until I can't use them anymore, and then sell them
That's
for real
viable
money.
if you're paying like $300 a month for a subscription fee. Like, yeah, no, that could become an actual economy
Yeah,
because
and
money is
everyone-
getting pumped into that.
but
Like everyone is into this.
yeah,
Yeah,
but-
it's WoW's next level.
but it's real real powerful people are playing this game. Like it's like why go on a vacation? We can just go on the Royal Road and go hang out by this beautiful photorealistic fucking beach with beautiful things and all the experiences are real.
And
I'm
eat
here
at
with
this
my
incredible
wife.
restaurant.
Eat this incredible food.
So think like Sword on Art Line meets Westworld.
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
it's kind of in that realm, and it's like it's a really interesting story. Like we're not getting into the mechanics too much here, but like the AI that runs this is awesome. Like not personality wise, but just like the way things run up. So like you'll start doing something and like a quest will just like appear. And if you do that quest, it may be like a meaningless quest, like you're just delivering this tiny item.
But it'll trigger something else.
But it'll trigger another item that's like a chain quest. And if you get to the end, you get offered like a special class, which is in like the legendary Moonlight Sculptor is
Sure.
Yeah.
His special class.
Yeah, and so like that's the thing is Weed goes into this. He's like, I'm gonna become like a warrior. I'm gonna pick like the class that can do the most damage, and then I'm gonna just gonna farm as much as I possibly can to make money. And the game basically is like, no, you're gonna be a crafting class.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Weed. Come with me on this magical journey.
Oh, yeah. He keeps rejecting it, by the way. He kept rejecting it. He tried so hard.
And he got so far.
But
in the
you know,
end-
the call knows where you live.
Yeah.
You can't escape. You can't escape it.
He literally will not take a call to adventure.
But basically, he takes this class that everyone thinks is like the most garbage class, and actually starts doing it. And it's like the game starts because it's not a game that's like trying to do things objectively. It's an actual artificial intelligence, so it has some subjectivity
Sure.
or objectivity. Like it like judges the artistic value of the sculptures he makes, and so he actually tries to make like he's not trying to like make like the same sculpture 100 times to sell it. He like realizes that he needs to advance his art to be able to advance his class.
If you make grand works, great works, your magnum opus, you get huge bonuses.
Like
to
actual
yourself.
stat bonus, permanent stat growth.
Or you create an effect that controls the entire zone.
But-
Anyone who looks at it gets something.
But more importantly, you craft the landscape of a game you are playing.
Forever.
And everyone looks at your statue unless someone makes a better one and they take yours down.
Yeah, and if they look at your statue, like, and which people are going to do because there's literal like looking at the statue gives you stat bonuses. So people come to this city specifically to farm because this statue is in it.
That's a whole arc, by the way, and it was epic. He built the equivalent of the greatest pyramid / dedication to a king that was dying. And he found a way to not only do it, but make a hilarious amount of money off doing it because he got people to help him for free.
He sold the quest to people for like a gold a piece, and then just had them do horrific manual labor for like days,
Building
and
giant
days. But keep in
things
mind,
of sand.
because he's a crafting class, he has like this skill called handicraft, which basically lets him be really good at using his hands and gives him bonuses towards all his like job professions. So he keeps like he becomes like a master blacksmith, a master cook, a master tailor, which he rejected being a tailor for a while because he's like,
Because he used to work in a sweatshop.
I used to work in a sweatshop, and I don't want to fucking work with my hands
Oh.
like that anymore.
So like this is very Tate no Yusha because of the skill point system in there. He would feed materials into his shield and just get better at doing all the side jobs.
Pretty
Like
much.
that was how he got by to begin with.
Except everything feeds into itself. And because in this world, physical classes are just more straightforward for people to understand, that there's almost none of these grandmaster craftsmen. And he's just happens to be a master at all of them.
Yeah, and keep in mind this game is like relatively young, so like it's a game where like people are probably going to get up into the 900s towards the end of the game, and like the top person in the world after like this game's been running for like a year and a half is like high 200s, like low 300s.
Christ.
So like they've barely scratched the surface.
And like it's starting to get real hard to level at that point.
Oh, yeah. And the story, by the way, the active story and the history of this world is very, very in depth. This AI did an incredible job.
Yeah, there's like 10 or 12 like forbidden areas where like people can't go to yet. They're just too dangerous. Like no one can be there.
You got to fulfill certain things to bring about the end of the world to be able to go here or
But
you know,
Crazy.
But basically, the fun part about this is the story and the history of this world was written such that sculpting actually, like, a sculptor played a huge part in the backstory of this world. And so no one has actually taken up this sculpting subquest, but once he does and becomes the legendary Moonlight Sculptor, which is like he literally gains the ability to kind of like affect reality and shit at some point by like carving light. It's cool stuff.
That does sound very cool.
And the downside is mana usage. That's like the only downside of because legendary Moonlight Sculptor abilities are ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
they're real. To make up for like he's a swordsman, right? Like he looks like a swordsman, but he's a sculptor, so he dressed like a sculptor. But
That happened at the beginning of Coiling Dragon.
he's so good at being a swordsman in real life. He's so good at, and then the talents he learns being a legendary Moonlight Sculptor and the different stuff he learns by discovering the NPC generated like history that he's walking down. There's a reason why legendary is in the front of the sculptor, even though he hates the class forever.
He eventually starts to appreciate it, but every so often you still get that sentiment of like, God, I wish I was a fucking berserker. Fuck. But like, Weed is an incredibly interesting character. We haven't gotten into his personality much, but like, other than him being a hard worker and a miser, but like,
And a silver tongue.
But yeah, he does not give a shit about people. He will con the fuck out of real people. But the second he meets an NPC, he is like, oh man, you were so crippled. How can I help you today? What, like, he will silver tongue these NPCs because NPCs will give him benefits, and the system likes him because he butters up NPCs. So the system keeps on like putting cooler and cooler shit in front of him.
Like he was gonna starve, and he buttered up in the first area. He buttered up the military commanders training people there, so he would share his lunch with him.
Yeah.
And invite him to his house to hang out and eat with his giant wife.
And like
After he's done smacking the dummy all day.
it's like, and like, it's like if you saw The Sims, but like you saw them having actual like conversation.
Ooh, if you could understand Simlish.
Yeah, because these NPCs are not like procedurally generated. Like if this NPC dies, they're dead. If there was a quest someone had related to him, that quest has failed
forever.
Ooh.
Because like this is a game with permanent consequences. There's a point in the story where like a group is doing like a high level quest, like a quest that's higher level than most quests that have been passed in the history, and they fuck it up. They like they hit a trap and they fail, and it triggers a heat wave across the entire world that like people have to do quests to fix that.
I love the concept so much.
It's an incredible, like, I have thought multiple times of trying to make a D&D campaign about this because it's just such a fascinating world that I've wanted to.
And
it's just hard.
You could go anywhere and you could find some like cultists are doing this, and you just ignore the cultists for a while. Cultists don't stop what they're doing.
No, why would they?
Yeah, that ritual happens, and then there's a demonic cult that you have to deal with that's like destroying cities.
And then you gotta unite the orcs and the elves to resist this undead army.
They can't do it with those elves.
There's
Those
a
guys
part
are
where some
assholes.
users find like a dark ritual place, and the thing is like, all right, so we'll make you into liches. You'll be immortal. You'll gain all these powers. But if your character dies, it's just perma erased. Do you want to switch? And like those characters become major plot points. Like it's like these it's just these awesome stories and these awesome stories of like Weed doing crazy things that makes perfect sense in the context of who Weed is and the things he's done in the past.
Classes that have never existed before, and you say you're already like a legendary Moonlight Sculptor, right?
Right.
And you've done something amazing, world-changing thing, which triggers the existence of a class that has never existed. What was it? Warlock? Is it
He unlocks Necromancer. He unlocked the orc race as a playable race
For everyone else?
for everyone
else.
because he beat
So
a quest.
people in this game too are like, fucking Weed. He's just
They
the
don't-
best.
they didn't
So, like-
realize, they look at his name and they think he's like a fanboy of the actual Weed.
Yeah, and then there starts being like, as he starts becoming a sculptor, he starts gaining the ability to like transform into the form of sculptures he's making. So he'll start doing stuff as Weed, like in an orc form, and then they'll be like, "Oh, it's the God of War Weed from Continuity of Magic," and then he'll go back to his human form and be a sculptor, and they'll be like, "Are Sculptor Weed and God of War Weed the same person? They're in like the same area and they're doing like similar stuff, but like." And like there's this mystery and people are trying to follow it
Racer
out, and like
X.
it leads to like conflicts which like lead TV stations to like start following or like making a new program. And like the TV station owner is like the guy who has a daughter, and it's like this huge story of like these interconnected karmic threads.
These people who he partied with this one time become like main characters. End up dating one of the like TV.
Ooh.
Everything's important.
Wait,
Because Weed starts shaking this game so much, and because this game has started affecting the real world so much, he starts shaking the real world. And like, so that the people that interact with him in the game, their lives start to change because just by being in a party or being friends with Weed, it changes their perspective on how to level, what it means to be good at the game, how you play
it
this
makes
game.
them monsters and titans in this because they just ran across Weed.
I do want to pause us here so that we could pull up a more specific example because I won't forgive myself if we don't talk about Geomchis.
Oh, the Geomchis!
All right, so remember how we talked about him going to a sword dojo?
Yeah.
So he goes there, and he was incredible. Like, he just picked it up immediately. He started beating these, like, all these disciples. And, like, the master is, like, literally, like, the top Olympic swordsman. Like he's the best, literal best swordsman in the world. Like he's won gold medals. He hasn't met anyone that can actually give him a fight. And he's watching this kid and he's like,
this is gonna be my successor.
this is going to be the kid that I teach sword arts to. Like this is the kid. And then one day he starts playing the game and he just stops showing up.
Disappears.
And he's like, no, I was trying to play hard to get. Now I don't know where this kid is. So he's playing in when you die in Royal Road, you end up like you get kicked out of the game for 24 hours. Like you lose a level, you get kicked out of the game in 24 hours real time, and you like drop some items. And like it sucks obviously to do that because like you lose skill point, like your skills go down.
Does the
and
person
stuff.
that killed you just gain the stuff that you lost? Or?
Basically, yeah, they can pick up the items that you lost.
Got it.
So like at one certain point after pulling off like this incredible fight, he ends up dying, like having to kill himself to get to the end of it. And so he has a day off basically, and he's like, oh, I'll go work out. It'll be fun. I haven't been there. So he shows back up at this dojo. And like because he's been playing this game and it's like actual
doing
fighting,
real life or death combat in this.
and because he's always fighting on like because like you get endurance points if you go down to very low health. So he's constantly fighting at the point where he is just about to die and consciously taking hits to keep his health low and be at the minimum.
To build the
reserve.
stats, taking just enough damage to build the stats, and killing everything he does, so he builds more bloodlust.
He's like, oh, and there's some enemies. Okay, it'll take me 10 seconds to get over there. I can pull those 3 on the way over there, and it'll give me 10 seconds to bandage myself from the previous fight. Like, he has perfect efficiency in farming. So,
farming efficiency is super important.
He had so much training in just game theory on how to destroy.
Well, yeah, he had like 20 years of playing a different game. Like,
but he also he also fights above his level by a lot.
Wait, let me just note of clarification, just for my own benefit. Has Weed been playing the first game the entirety of the game being out?
He wasn't even born when it came out.
Okay, so he just showed up at the end, at the twilight of this game,
like the last half, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That just wanted some clarification.
This is the only
Sorry.
fun he ever had allowed himself to have. And he
Gotcha.
felt guilty about it.
Gotcha,
Yeah, he
gotcha.
was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this. I should be making money.
But
So
back to the
he was fighting
Geomchis.
people above.
So he's always been in the game. He's been fighting things above his level. If it
Yeah,
hits
way
him,
above
he's
his
gonna
level.
Die.
Because
Yeah.
he has a bunch of bonus stats. Like basically, he had the stats of like a level like 10 or 15 character at level 1 when he left the city. So he farms above his level constantly.
But it has made him extremely deadly. So he shows up in this dojo, and the head followers, whatever, of the main guy, the main teacher,
Sure.
they kind of salty a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
because like all the teacher's been talking about is like, where the fuck did that kid go?
And the kid shows
Exactly.
up. The kid starts bodying them.
Yeah, he just beats his way through all the disciples, like the top level disciples. And so the head dojo guy comes out and he's like, hey, why don't you try it with some real swords?
Yes.
So he gives the kid a real sword and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And they like end up fighting. And the main guy is like obviously fighting for real, but holding back because he's the best swordsman in the world.
Yeah, you
But it's
don't
like a
wanna kill the
real
kid.
fight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You can see like this. Lee Hyun, Lee has been fighting everyone else. He is physically exhausted. The only thing that's running right now is his mind and his sense for combat are going right now. Like
Sure.
it's animalistic in that he can't let himself back down. It was like a different Weed that I was ready for at that point in the story. It like changed for like a second. Like this dude actually does have a passion for the sword.
Yeah.
And it's a great match, and it ends, and he explains what he's been doing all this time.
And the main guy, like the head of the dojo is like, wait, there's a fucking game where I can fight dragons?
And also, my sword training comes in great handy.
Yeah, he's like, I can finally use my sword training. I've been feeling like I have nothing to do with
And you
my
have
skills
and
for
you have
so
a
long.
Flashback to the background of this teacher who grew up and never finished elementary school and has all these honorary degrees because he's been this good with the sword. He's lived his life by a sword in a world where living by the sword
is not a thing anymore.
is not a thing.
And all
Yeah.
these people are like just muscle beasts, like the dumbest fucking idiot people who have done nothing but eat bad food that is good for you to train their bodies and become the best at the sword. And it's this entire dojo.
In this entire dojo, and because he is a world famous stuff, and he gets a certain amount of money from the government because he's doing something for keeping up the history of Korea with the swordsmanship, he's like, gonna use that money. I'm gonna buy enough of these capsules for me and my 2 main guys.
Well, no, he's like, buy me a capsule, and the guy's like, oh yeah, sure, and then like 6 of them show up,
Yeah.
and he's like, why are there 6? I only ordered 1. He's like, well, of course, your top 5 disciples were gonna join in there.
Yeah.
We couldn't let you go in
We
there
can't
alone.
let you go in there by yourself, sir.
So they all go in. They all have like the base bulky default character model. They don't change it at
They
all.
all look the exact same.
They all name their character like essentially
Geomchis 1, Sword Noob 1,
Sword Noob 2, Sword Noob 3, Sword Noob 4, Sword Noob 5. And so like they start training, and like we told them what to do, so they immediately go to the training dojo and start like doing the same thing.
And so people are like, "Oh my god,
Yeah, why are there
there's
so many
more?"
doing this?
Like,
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. These guys aren't as
Savvy.
smart or savvy as weed in that they only have enough water and bread for like a few days.
Yeah, not long. The instructor's even like, "Hey
They
guys,
offer food.
you guys want some hunger?" And they're like, "No, we're too proud. We couldn't do that.
Yeah, like, we will
We
never
refuse."
take your stuff. We'd rather die.
so they die.
And then they die.
They all died from hunger, and they got kicked out. And they're like, "What the fuck?" And they're like, "I know." And they buy pods for every like the 500 disciples of the dojo.
Because when you're born in this world, you get 10 pieces of barley bread and water. So we just eat all that bread. It'll be fine.
So they just buy them a capsule, drop them in,
And then
kill
like,
them,
take their bread.
yeah, and then like, all right, well, you guys
And
can
then
come back in a day.
All
Like,
the Geomchis, the entire dojo of Geomchis are in there fighting and then dying from the start.
All of them are just sitting there, like the entire dojo just filled with huge burly men that look the exact same, all have the same name, just
5
all
of them
in
are
unison,
murdering.
all in unison, swinging at the training dummies,
oh god,
And then dying.
and then dying of hunger in the middle of it.
Okay, after a while, we finally discovers this is happening, and then he sends some of his followers to be like, some of the people he helps.
Yeah,
Did
he's
you
in the-
help them? Because they keep dying.
It's
Please help them.
They
sure
go
they
and like
don't
they take like
die
1
again.
gold and buy like 30,000 barley bread and just like give it to them.
like stop killing all your dudes or whatever. It's like,
And they're like, well, okay, well, yeah, Weed's one of our disciples.
one of our disciples.
Because he's our little brother, we can accept this.
We can accept this, right?
that's fair.
But yeah, they're so prideful in their face. They don't do quests. They will only ever do quests for women.
Yeah, if women ask them to do quests, they'll do it. Because in this game, like, they'll be like, oh, she smiled. I've never been so close to a woman who smiled.
That's an NPC, but that's
She's a
fine.
beauty. I will build your house.
They start doing the quest with Weed where, like, they build the big sculpture and they all get, like, bricklayer levels. And then, like, they start walking around and, like, pretty ladies will be like, oh, I wish I had someone to build my house. And they'll all, like, run up and, like, they're like, we'll build houses. They all start, like, become excellent house builders.
Incredible.
They're also all alcoholics.
So wait,
and they
do
take
they have like
advantage
a,
of Weed's alcohol making skills.
And cooking, like they eat and drink him out of money every time they show up. It's hilarious.
But they're also badass. They go to war. The Geomchis go to war.
Yeah,
They
dog.
are a small
It is great.
army.
Eventually, one person like jumped in front of a girl and like protected her, and then died. And like right as he was dying, she was like, "Can I add you as a friend?" And she was like, "Yes." And then like all of the Geomchis tried to sacrifice themselves for girls.
But
oh man, don't be a girl in this game. Some
And then,
guy is
like-
gonna try and sacrifice himself for you. It's
Like-
gonna be great.
Like the one guy gets a girlfriend, and they're all like, "Yeah, number 16 really knows what's."
Oh Jesus.
there's one part that distilled the Geomchis for me. There's remember the bad guys that tried to mess with Weed and got bodied, right? The 2 bandit guys that thought he was just a worthless sculptor with his merchant friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They later come back because these guys are pretty strong. Whatever, just can't fuck with Weed. But they're pretty strong.
Yeah, no one takes Weed seriously because he's a sculptor.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
no one ever
So
thinks he's a threat.
It's a terrible idea to not take him seriously. But they run across these same bad guys run across the Geomchis to do stuff. And these guys are like, I don't know, 100 levels above where the Geomchis are. And the Geomchis don't back down from anything. So like the main guy, he's just using sword techniques, fighting a dude 100 levels ahead of him. Till he finally loses a fight and loses a fight for the first time in his life and dies for the first time of his life.
Shit.
And then shows up and like writes down the people's name on a board. And like, this is our life now.
We're gonna get him.
We ruined these people.
And so Geomchis begin to go through woods, murdering everything. Like,
Got a level.
Geomchis on a warpath.
There's one part where Weed's like, yeah, I'm at this I'm doing this harbor thing. I'm fighting these people. I'll probably be all right. I'll see you guys later. And they're all like, we got to help him, right? Yeah. And they're like, well, how do we get a boat? He's like, I don't know. We don't have any boats. Let's just swim it. And they just swim across an ocean.
I mean, if I could, in some of those games, I would have just, like, set it to go. But I guess in this case, you actually have to swim.
Yeah, no, people were
Like,
like actually like
physically
having to
swimming. Yeah.
deal with the fatigue of swimming.
Oh, God. That sounds miserable. But it also sounds incredible. So, like, what are we going to do?
But yeah,
One
no,
day
like-
VR will be there.
Weed starts like, yeah, I can only hope. Like Weed starts like making like he'll make wyverns that like help him. He'll make he has like a sculpture made of gold that he makes that like physically pained him to make because it's made of gold.
He is a miser.
Whenever
Talk about the salt.
All right, there's one scene, and I only say this because like they tell this story at one point, and then it just keeps getting referenced, and it is a perfect example of Weed's miserness, or miserly nature. At a certain point, it's like this big event happens, and it's like a huge thing, and they just earned like a lot of money, and so Weed's like, we're finally hit it big. I'm gonna celebrate, and he goes and he buys the salt that's essentially like 2 cents more expensive than the salt he normally gets.
Oh, shit.
And then he goes home and he cooks with it and he's like, tastes exactly the fucking same. Can't believe I wasted those 2 cents. And 200 won. Fuck. And then like 11 books later, he'll be like, this is just like the time with that fucking salt. Like,
Blaming the universe for punishing him for buying that salt.
like, and that's like, I love this story because it is 2 stories that are happening at once. It is actually a lot of stories, but 2 main stories of like Weed in Royal Road and Lee Hyun in Korea. And like they are 2 very, very connected stories, and the only person who doesn't know how connected they are is Weed.
One story, one last story I'm going to say because we're getting kind of long here. Because this is a cool story that happens towards, like, I don't know, like 7th, 8th book. Keep in mind, we didn't really talk a lot about like the little sister he dotes on.
Yeah, we're scraping the surface here.
But he wants to treat her well, but she's going to like the school event thing, and she finally finds a way to get her brother to come here. I'm not gonna tell you why, what's going on. There's some Ninja Warrior TV recorded thing going on here. And people never understood why his sister, who to everyone else is seen like this beautiful idol girl.
Yeah, she never goes out with anybody. She never puts anybody in her eyes.
And she talks so well about her brother, and no one believes her until he shows up. Sees something's going on, gets told, "Oh, I can win what 3 million won for winning this."
I can win money for this?
Oh,
Sign me up.
Yeah,
So
let
he
me do it.
destroys this Ninja Warrior tournament thing, this Ninja Warrior obstacle course, destroys it viciously. It's free as fuck, and then carries his sister away to go and eat fancy food for the first time ever. And people are just like, it's like he's the prince. He's a prince. Who's this prince?
He is a savior.
He's the princess knight. He saved the princess.
Yeah.
It's like he builds this fantastical character, and like he doesn't care about fame or glory. He's like literally just trying to make money. So he doesn't give a shit. Like sometimes people will set up like these incredible deals for him that people would like jump to do, and then it'll be like, "Oh, I don't get paid for it. No, I don't care."
Yeah.
That's
Like, if
He
people-
I
works
respect
hard
a man
for the
with
money.
integrity.
and then people will be like, "Well, there's like you get this fee," and he's like, "Oh, there's a fee. Okay, cool. Yeah,
sure, I got it."
what time can I be there?"
Yeah.
His also the sculpting from in the game carries out into the real life because you can't let the machine sculpt for you. You got to sculpt yourself in the game. Works in real life, strangely.
Yeah, so like there's a part where like they fuck up a thing, and then this guy live carves an ice sculpture in the middle of a thing as like and he keeps making like really cool sculptures. There's one couple that like comes to him and like they had a child that was miscarried, and like they wanted to like see their child, so they came to him with just like, can you just carve our not born daughter? And like they don't expect anything out of it, and he's like, he's like, sure, man, I'll do it for like a copper. And it's like one of these like weird parts where like he just like suddenly isn't a miser sometimes, and it's always really touching when that happens.
Well, he understands
When
family.
he got the training from that master sculptor and that was dying and sculpted his life after he lived like all those days as the different as a rabbit, as a deer, all the other stuff. And you like it gets almost like Desolate Era level esoteric and explaining the feelings he's having while carving this all night because it takes time, real life time to carve.
Yeah.
I mean, Coiling Dragon, especially, like, I feel anytime you talk about sculpture, it just brings me back to that.
Yeah, I do
yeah.
love that my first two were Coiling Dragon and Legendary Moonlight Sculptor, which are both like books
The
about people who
sculpting
sculpt.
is super important in both of those.
Sounds it.
Yeah,
I thought it was like a
This one
trope,
is
and then I
called
found out
Legendary
no.
Moonlight Sculptor.
It's
But-
not a trope.
it's just
Just really those two.
Yeah, but I just have to hit those first. But no, it's a really. I don't know if you could tell by our enthusiasm, but like we actually, it's a really fun book.
it's a pretty book.
It's a page turner.
Yeah, like it is legitimately hilarious. The scenarios that come out are written correctly to be believed, but are unbelievable.
Incredible romance, by the way,
Mm.
in the story as well.
Yeah,
Incredible romance. We glanced over that.
We didn't even bring her in. Like Seyoon.
Yeah.
I think you talked about the sculpture he made, or like the
Oh yeah,
the
there's a
idea of the
part.
sculpture he made.
He keeps the first time Weed meets this girl, she's in player killer mode because she like does this as therapy and she doesn't care about like who she kills. She just like goes to the most dangerous area and fights until her character dies.
Sure.
So like if people come up and fight her, she just kills them. So she had the murderer and she was high level. So the instructor like invited him over, being like, yeah, here's someone else who actually passed the basic course, which means they did the whole training center thing at the beginning. And so he's like, oh God, one of my actual competitors, people who are taking this game seriously. And like she's also like incredible in this huge armor, has this giant halberd, and is like a player killer. And so he is terrified of this girl immediately.
This doesn't stop him from talking his way into getting the most food, though.
Yeah, he definitely like talks to the instructor. The instructor invites both of them to dinner, and he's like terrified, but he's still gonna eat.
Yeah,
Because that
why
shit's
wouldn't you?
free.
Yeah, it's free food.
Compliment his giant wife. By the way, that dude's wife is a giant, an actual giant.
That
You
does-
did put emphasis on that word earlier, but I chose not to.
But-
Yeah.
engage. This guy becomes terrified of this girl, but she's like the most beautiful like thing he's ever seen.
Sure.
And so like eventually he goes to carve, like there's this goddess who is known to be the most beautiful goddess. So the actual official canon artwork of her is the prettiest thing that's ever been made of her. If you make the prettiest Freya statue that's ever existed, that is actually what Freya
is what Freya
canonically
looks
looks
like.
like.
Nice.
Guess who he based it off of? The player killer girl that's doing this for therapy.
With her fairy-like beauty.
And
And so like he draws her like smiling. And it's this like heavenly warm aura, and she sees it and she's like, oh, I wish I could smile. That's so wonderful.
wow, this is so beautiful. She doesn't realize it looks like her. By the way, she was doing the same quest he was doing, except he carved a sculpture and she went deep into some devil mountain to get the sculpture of Freya to bring back for this city, for this quest to get somewhere. And she was too late because he had already completed the sculpture. So the one she carried on her back there is worthless compared to his.
Well, yeah,
But it's fine, 'cause it was
stopped being
beautiful.
the statue of Freya.
But it's so funny because he keeps using her as a subject for things because he keeps getting really high art values on the sculptures he makes from her.
Man, she must be pretty.
She's
That's
her-
his assumption.
That's his muse, I guess.
He has kind of an unconscious crush on her. But or at least I read it that way.
But he also, like, he was terrified of her seeing it because he felt it would be presumptuous.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I didn't get her permission to do this. She's gonna kill me if she ever sees these statues. So it's like there's this whole mechanic of like her trying to build this genuine loving friendship or like lover relationship with him, and him acting in abject terror of her. And like the misunderstandings of that relationship is hilarious.
That does sound fun.
There's another woman that I think becomes like Weed's like first love or whatever. The one he meets in
Yeah,
the Sky City,
She was like a shaman.
who's a shaman who's just as nuts as he is. Except instead of like killing things as efficiently, she buffs monsters as strong as they can get, fights them, heals them up, fights them again.
Yeah, just to level up her skills. So like shaman isn't a good class. It's like a jack of all trades, so it's not supposed to be good at anything, but she's just force leveled her skills to be ridiculous. So she's just an awesome party member, and he's like, oh, someone who's actually exploiting the game.
Yeah.
And they
Enjoy it with me.
spend like an amazing month together, just grind. They don't even really talk, just grinding. And then she disappears, and he never sees her again. So he's racked by this feeling of like pain in his heart. So he wrecks a series of 9 sculptures around all the dungeons they cleared.
Of just like them doing things
The
and like
nameless-
moments that they had
the
together.
nameless love or whatever. And it becomes like the first grand sculpture of his.
That sounds awesome.
And like it turns out like she had like a fatal, like a very hard to cure illness. And like she wasn't sure whether or not she wanted to go through with the surgery, and like
Meeting weed.
push her to do it. She succeeds, like a year later, comes back into the game and relogs in and is still in that same spot, except there are all those statues that she then gets to see, and there's like all these emotions that she has of like her seeing what those times meant to him.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's just like this story is like moment like that after moment like that after moment like that of like these like really, really awesome written things.
I would say the story is eloquently sculpted.
Kill yourself.
Okay, well,
Ooh.
on that god
that
awful
hurt.
fucking pun, where do we?
I know you can't
find
hear this, but I'm smiling as hard as I can.
No, they
right
can
now.
hear it.
I mean, if you search, the first site that did it was called Japtim, which is I think Korean for loot.
Yeah.
So like they did like the first like 17 novels, I think, and then someone else did like
You can switch over to another thing that has a big list of more novels and
As always,
I think it
there
was,
will
like,
be
Rainbow
links
translations,
in
I
the
think.
description because
Yeah.
that this sounds difficult.
yeah. If you search for Legendary Moonlight Sculptor, you can find it. Just like search for the actual volume you're on and not just
Don't
Legendary
worry.
Moonlight Sculptor, and then you can find it.
See a picture of a guy hanging from like a rock with some sculpting tools on it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
All right.
him. That's him carving the tomb where he's getting other people to pay
That
him to
awesome,
do labor.
Awesome tomb.
And not only is he paying him to do labor, he starts a cult, which comes back later as a plot point.
Incredible.
Because he makes porridge out of literal grass because he's that good at
But
cooking.
it tastes so good.
And because no one takes the time to level up side jobs in this game, it's incredible cooking. And so these people are like, we get this food for free that gives us all these stats. And we
It's
get
not
to
even his
participate.
good food.
We get to participate in this high level quest that no one ever gets to participate in.
I feel so.
by just eating grass porridge.
We're pushing this. Is about to be like our longest episode, so we probably need to.
Yeah, we need to
pause
stop.
here.
But like
I feel bad we didn't cover like sword sharpening and how he's able to buff his whole party.
yeah, like I could tell stories about this forever.
This sounds like a great candidate for one of our first night's episodes.
I would say that, but honestly, like there would still be too much to talk about. I could talk about non-spoiler stuff for another 3 hours on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be like a 8-parter LMS nights.
Because there's just a lot of content and it's good. Like it's just a good story. There's a book where he becomes a ghost pirate captain.
Incredible.
Yes.
Again, truly, I feel like the episodic, like almost out of this world story elements make it incredibly I Shall Seal the Heavens to me.
Yeah, it is good
I
at,
guess it's
at
Korean,
telling.
I shall say the heavens.
It is kind of Korean. I Shall Seal the Heavens. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And on that note, go
Hey,
read it. It's a good book.
So what's our next book?
Yeah. What's our next book? Seth?
So
What
I
you got?
started reading a book.
Ha! I knew it.
It's none of the ones you suggested for me. So you can all go eat a dick or a bunch of dicks, or if you're into that, like go
Eat things that aren't
undicks.
dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
eat undicks.
Eat
the
whichever
opposite of
sexual thing
dicks.
isn't cool for you. I
Yeah,
guess.
whichever one makes you uncomfortable, go do that thing. Ha ha! No, okay, so I've been reading a book called Cultivation Chat Group, which is really fun because it makes fun of you nerds. Like, I mean, yes, no, that's pretty much the whole of it. It makes fun of you nerds. It's about a guy who, well, I'm not,
Yeah,
you'll learn more about it next time, but I read a book. I read a book.
Everyone pause. Yep.
Cultivation Chat Group.
Cultivation Chat Group. It's
All right,
coming.
guys.
It's the
Next week,
one.
guys, we'll see you next week with Cultivation Trap Group. Thanks so much for listening. Please leave us a review or subscribe on iTunes. Anything you do makes us way more visible, helps us spread the word about these great books.
If you listened to this as a result of a thread that one of us put on Reddit, go back and upvote that thread like a real cool guy, or maybe put a comment. That'd be real nice too. Or if you didn't and you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, disregard my previous statement entirely.
Or just like go onto Reddit.
Yeah, no, go find it on Reddit. Figure out what Reddit is, go find it, and figure out how to upvote it. and or leave a comment.
All right.
This has been Training by the Heavens. I'm your host, Jonathan Kinney, joined by...
I'm Richard.
I'm Bill.
And we'll see you next week with Cultivation Chat Group.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Tiger Roller Coaster Productions. Tigers are scary. You try to get off.